Good evening, friends. I'm thunderstruck to find that Devasis is not only an author, but he's also a predictor of the future. He's written a book about a dance bar girl who was sold. She was auctioned, in fact. And on TV last night, I saw that an English girl, a model, was being auctioned on the black TV, as they call it. I don't know how many of you have heard that there is an actual internet which is called black internet, where the most horrible things happen. You can buy drugs, you can buy girls, you can buy anything you like. And the police are unable to trace it. So this was all the news internationally on CNN and so on. And so I say your book has come at the right time. So if anyone wants to read it, what it does, it throws a light on something that has unfortunately been characterized as vulgar, cheap, sexy, which it's not. I've been to dance bars when they were functioning in Bombay. I used to go to dance bars regularly with friends, and I found them extremely, yes, they were sexy, I will say that. The girls never, ever took off their clothes. For that young man, there's really sad. No, never. But what has happened is that, you know, in India, we have to throw off all these shackles. We really do that. Because otherwise we go on with the same old thing, everything that is not suitable for our censor board. And we know Mr. Helani has made a name for himself of being, you know, what the British would call a blue nose. And his nose is blue because all the time he is weeping and blowing his nose. He's being criticized bitterly, and I'm very happy about it. But let me say that a movie I saw only last week, Lipstick Under My Vodka. Excellent movie, and the whole audience was packed. And what was very interesting as I looked around the audience was that at least 10 to 15% of the audience were wearing burqas. And it was a film that showed that today India is finally coming out of the Middle Ages, which Europe did about 400 years ago. And they're finally admitting that there is a thing called personal expression, and they should be encouraged, not discouraged. Just to give you an idea of the author and his writing and his ability to create a scene, I'm going to do a very short passage. Huh? Okay, it's called the story, Neelam's story. Neelam had an oval face with a high forehead. Her cute and small nose had given a character to her face. Her skin had the hue of bronze. Her hair had turned reddish brown at the edges without proper care, and she was unable to oil her hair ever since she was brought here to the Panch Ganga. Just to break her resolve, this was an auction, rather. This is an auction where they're auctioning women. Some years ago, Vijay Tendulkar wrote a brilliant play, which was about Kamla, which was about a woman who was sold, I think if I'm not mistaken, in Rajasthan, they had auctioning of women. You would buy a woman. And finally, I think they closed it down. My colleague here is going to tell you much more about how the dance bars operate. Anyway, just to break her resolve, she was not given any food for the last few days. Yet, her glands had oozed sufficient juices that kept her going. Despite her servitude, she was deliciously attractive. She would have made a very alluring concubine and could have made a lot of money for herself, for her family, as well as for the community. Yet, she rebelled, and the Biradari had to punish her for being a rebel. With her veil lowered, she was forced to balance a huge stone on her head under the dry, hot afternoon sun, and was made to stand stock still. She was not even given a morsel of food while everybody else around feasted. Had she failed to keep the rock balanced properly on her head till the community feast was over, she would have been publicly lashed. The carp was in progress. Recently, that word, carp, has become to be one of the most evil things I've ever heard. Neelam had to pay a price for marrying, being faithful to her husband, and for refusing to become a harlot. Neelam had declared to her friends that she was happy in her marriage. She advised them to get married instead of obeying the community rule of joining harlotry and becoming a sexually profligate woman. How could the carp tolerate such propaganda? Panchganga had to react, or else its hold over the entire community would be shaken. Community members from all nearby villages were invited to gather and take part in the feast along with the members of the carp. Families who were reluctant to join the feast, even though they were marginal in numbers, issued an order akin to warrants, and some carp members were sent to fetch them, especially the women, if necessary by force. Neelam was the worst of her. She did not want to leave her husband, who belonged to a different community. She loved him. He was a caring and loving man. After listening to her case, the carp fined her family for allowing her to marry. The family had no option left but to auction its cows and goats, as well as a very small patch of land that had been bought recently with savings from its meager income of selling milk, and thereby paid part of the fine imposed. Else the family would have been excommunicated, thrown out of the village, and their property would have been confiscated. After the family paid the fine, it was asked to leave the venue of the Panchganga and the council of community leaders. And then Neelam was put on sale to recover the balance of the fine. She was made to stand in the open under the sun. Her veil had already been taken off. Elderly women from the community came forward and lowered her sari suggestively as far below her navel as possible to display a smooth, flat belly with no stretch marks indicating no pregnancy. And others came forward and groped her butt and felt her thighs for their firmness. Throughout the auction, she was leered at. Her womanhood was flaunted and exposed in the worst possible manner to vulgar display, so that she could fetch the highest possible price at the auction. The bidding process started with the auctioneer shouting prices. Rupees 5,000 going, 6,000 going, 7,000 going, 8,000 gone. Mangila, the man who bought Neelam by paying 8,000 rupees, immediately took her to Delhi and sold her off to a brothel keeper for triple the amount. If we don't close this chapter of our so-called culture, I don't know how we will ever enter the future, standing straight and upright. It is disgusting that I am an Indian and I have seen all this happening, and there are people who are writing against it, and they have been doing that, and many others. The lady here will tell you much more about that. And I would say, unless we are prepared to get rid of these past so-called traditions, which are nothing but exploiting womanhood, we will never ever be civilized. And I think Aristotle Greek said that civilization is judged by the way it honors its women. That is what civilization is. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Your reading, I'm sure, has definitely touched all the hearts here. Thank you again also for your insights. Ladies and gentlemen, we are glad to have Madam Varsha Kai with us, an ardent social activist, writer, women leader, and active in public life for more than 2 decades now. Committed primarily to women's cause, she is also active on varied social issues and participated in different movements and campaigns right from college days. Engaged in legal and social research work to support legal fight in the Supreme Court for the rights of downtrodden. Apart from advocacy work, she is engaged in writing, translations and documentation. Has vast experience in training, project execution, coordination